Who are you people? What do you want from me?
You want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I am very excited to share this Google Sheet. If you watch me on Twitch, you may have heard me allude to this or talk about this a little bit. SPL support player, Twitch streamer, YouTuber, his name's Emilzy, for those of you who weren't around back then. He used to have a spreadsheet that is pretty much the base of this, which is just he had every single god in the game, he had all their stats, all the items, all that type of stuff. And I wanted to basically recreate that. Now that sheet was from like season 4 when he shared it, so we're talking over half a decade ago, which is insane to think about. I wanted to bring something like that back just for my own resources, to be able to keep track of builds and, you know, one handy place, be able to compare and contrast stats, be able to leave myself more notes in terms of, you know, what I want to work on in scrims, that type of thing, and just have everything in a more condensed pace. My own personal doc is like the biggest clutter and mess that you could ever imagine. So shout outs to Twitch chatters, viewers, Smite community. Plenty of people have given me a huge help, so shout out to everybody that has helped me kind of learn this process. I'm going to walk you guys through what the sheet does, how it works, and how to add to it, edit it, personalize it yourself. We're going to start with the god stat table. The god stat table is just exactly what it sounds like. It is every single character in the game, and it is all of their base stats. Part of what I had to manually add over the last few days was the class stat bonuses. So you will notice that Achilles has CDR because he's a warrior. You will notice that, you know, a mage like Baron has power, assassins have pen, hunters have basic attack damage. This is the base information that we are pulling from. Up here, you'll see a little level thing. If you are a support player and you want to see how your builds would look at, say, level 15, you just type in level 15 and it'll update all the stats. If you want to test how your starters look, you go to level 1. If you want to see how your first item power spike looks, you go to level 5, and so on and so forth. So you update that level here. That will reflect in this template. So in this template, we have Achilles selected. You see his base stats all the way across here. Go back to the god stat table. He had what, like 2.4k HP. Now he has 700. And you come back here and you'll notice that it is 700. So this right here, this level, you don't have to touch anything else in the sheet. You just type in the level that you want to compare and contrast builds at. It will automatically update in both the god template tabs. Very simple, straightforward. For the actual god builds, right now there are just 5 builds set up. You compare 5 builds of the same character at the same time. It doesn't have to be the same character. So for example, let's say I want this build to be Achilles. I can type Achilles, whoops, that's caps lock. I can type in Achilles, and if I want this build to be, you know, AMC or something, it'll reflect the name instead of the actual build. It can be a character, and then it'll change their base stats and that sort of thing. You can do that if you would like, but for me, I'm using it to test the same or the same character, different builds on them. So you might have noticed there, this page at the top is just a summary. It is just putting a easy compare and contrast visual for you here. You can leave notes as in like, I really like this build for damage. I really like this build for tankiness. I really like this build for early game. This is my ideal late game build, that sort of thing. You can leave little notes for yourself, or you can even do it to test things, right? You can have an experimental build in here and be like, oh, I played this in a ranked game. It felt pretty good. Or, oh, I played this and my teammates BM'd me and told me I was trash and it made me cry, which was my most recent ranked experience. But in any case, if you go over here to select item, it will be every single item that was in that item table. Again, it is currently reading through 250 rows of data. So if I had something, or if I was missing something that you want in there, you can go ahead and throw it in there. If for any reason an item is not detecting or any of these stats aren't being filled in, if you tinker with the stuff, just add comma, all caps, FOSS at the end of it. For whatever reason, like 90% of the troubleshooting and the issues I had with the syntax in this thing were literally just adding FOSS at the end. Let's say I'm going to compare 3 builds on Achilles. So in this build, I'm going Abyssal Stone. In this build, I'm going Absolution. In this one, I'm going Blood-Soaked Shroud, apparently. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to pick like a few different items. When you go through all of these and you compare and contrast, you will be able to make a build, and then you will be able to scroll up here. And this should be a visual of what build is the best for a certain stat. The darker the number is, the better it is how I have it. So, you know, the cost is darker because lower cost equals better. Higher health equals better. Higher everything except for cost equals better. So it'll kind of highlight it for you of this build is the best for magical prot. This build is the best for mana. This build is the best for CDR or CCR rather. This build is the best for power. And it'll kind of highlight the pros and cons of all of these builds. This will do this automatically, and it is just reading all of the different builds. I'm going to go ahead and backtrack out of all those random items I have selected. And then reset it to right now, you can see it's just the same character, base stats, so it all looks the same right now. If you come over here, there's a little box. You can put stuff in here if you want. So, for example, let's say I have a theory like, oh, this is my ideal late game build. You can go ahead and put that in there, and then you can have a build test name, late game Achilles, and then boom, you have the build, you have why you would want to build it. This is a passives column. If you select a passive, it'll have Abyssal Stone, it'll put it in here. I have some notes on some of these passives, like how they work, just in case you want to know. So like, for example, Abyssal Stone, the ability has to be off cooldown for it to work. It doesn't, you know, a Scylla Crush won't apply Abyssal Stone to everybody you hit. It'll only be one target. That sort of thing. So I put in a couple little notes like that. But if you'd rather, you can just type in here. If I want to build something else, you can just double click this, delete this formula, and then you can type extra damage mitigation. If you put in like Oni Hunter's Garb and you don't want the long text of the passives, you are more than free to do that as well. But it'll just be a quick list of all of your passives. So if you select Amulet of Silence, and then I come down here and I get Sovereignty, where is Sovereignty, that little fella, boom, you'll see, oh, I have 2 auras. I'm giving physical prots, I'm giving magical prots, I'm giving HP 5, I'm giving all that stuff. And you'll be able to see all of that. So if you just want the visual of, oh, aura, 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 oh, I feel like a support. Nice. There you go. Another nice feature of these builds is having the effective physical health and magical health. This is just your effective magical and physical HP. So you will see that if I build Amulet of the Stronghold, effective magical HP is of course different than my actual HP. The reason for that, oh, my actual HP is here. That's the base one, silly. But you can see it's obviously different because it's taken into account protections, all that stuff. It's not taking into account pen and the targets that are hitting you. But it's just a general approximation of, oh, here's how the prots that I am building actually look, and here's how much they're increasing my stuff and that type of stuff. A few things that are different between the physical and the magical gods. The first thing will be the passives are different from the base stat bonuses or base class bonuses. So warriors are physical, get CDR. Assassins are physical, get pen. So that is in here. This magical template, the color for the power stats, the damage stats are different because they get power, mages get power on their base stat bonus, and guardians get CCR. So just very slightly different base stat columns, that sort of thing. You'll notice that there are no hunter stats. I will walk you through how to get that at the end of the video if you would like, just in case. If you're a hunter player and you do want that, don't worry, I will show you how to customize it. It is just not built into my version because I am never going to care about it. So in any case, both sheets also have these little sections down here, which are Shard, Relic, Relic 2, and Glyph. You will notice there are a few things here. It'll be very similar to the items where you can just hit select, or you can hit none, or you can do whatever. Something that you can do is, you'll see all the shards are first and they just have shards. So let's say I'm playing Achilles and I want Carapace Shard, I can select that. My first relic, let's say I want teleport. You come over here. I didn't put the base versions. I wanted to go into what upgrade I want. So let's say I want persistent teleport. Then you can come over here and say, oh, I want my second relic to actually just be Carapace Shard. I want to keep it. Instead of doing that, you could just go down to this option where it says keep shard, and then you'll have an easier note for yourself of, oh, I just want to keep my shard. Or you can put none, or you can just leave it blank, or you can do select. You can do whatever you'd like, but there's plenty of customization there for you to pick whatever you please. And then same thing for your glyph. Maybe you build any item that could be glyphed. All of these things are together, the relics, all that type of stuff. And you can find a glyph. So let's say I have Magi's and I decide I want revenge. This is a little text note reminder. I want to build Carapace Shard. I want to build persistent TP. My second relic, I want to be Scorching Blink, and then I want to go Magi's Revenge or something like that. And it can just be a nice visual reminder. Maybe you can have it up before your game and think about your builds or do something like that, or just track it after the games, or just theorycraft, whatever you want to do with it. The reason I decided to put all these shards, relics, and glyphs in the same spot was for my own brain, because let's say that I play a character where I feel like they could use a lot of relics very well, which is very common for me because I'm a support player. I might have meditation, and this is the meditation I want, or I might have blink, and this is the blink I want, and I might have, you know, frenzy, and this is the frenzy I want. And then maybe in this little manual notes section, I'll just write meditation if they're not going to build anti-heal, or blink if I need to engage, or frenzy if we want to burn objectives, that sort of thing. So you can use this little notes page for whatever you want. You can also use these notes for just a summary of, you know, this is how I want to use the build, this is what I'm looking to accomplish in the game. Or again, you can track, hey, this felt pretty good, this felt bad, whatever. And then, like I said, the magical template, same exact thing, should work the exact same way. Come over, pick any single god you want. You can cross over and put, you know, Susano here. It just won't calculate his base flat pen, and it won't calculate your power because you're on the magical template and not the physical one. What I would recommend doing, and what I will do, is let's say I want to compare a bunch of different gods. I want to compare builds on Yemoja and Ymir. Just come over here, hit duplicate. All the functionality will be the same. Change the god name. I'm now Ao Kuang. It'll change the stats. And now you just have another copy. You can rename it to Ao Kuang. And then you go play Ao Kuang in ranked, you realize that you hate him and you never want to play him again, and then you come over here, delete the sheet, and then bam, now you have your magical god template. It's still there, no problem. So it'll all work. You just have to duplicate the page, and it'll be squeaky clean, spanking brand new. That's the saying that everybody says. There is one final very important piece for me to show you about this sheet, which is movement speed. I mentioned earlier that the god stat table was a little wonky for this column only, and you should be careful about editing the god stats, movement speed, or messing that up. Be very careful when you do that, and the reason why is because these formulas for movement speed are bouncing back and forth, and I wanted to account for DR, and it is pulling two different movement speed numbers. The first one is your non-DR affected movement speed, which is coming from this cell right here. There's a formula in here. The text is just white, so it kind of seems hidden, but it's not really hidden. Do not delete the cell. Do not write over it if you want your movement speed to work. It will mess you up. So if you're like me and you're going to write a bunch of notes of, hey, you fed verse Whirlwind in scrims, if you do that, be very careful of not doing that in this cell specifically. And that applies to every single column or every single table. It has a hidden quote unquote movement speed formula right here. The reason for that is because movement speed in Smite diminishing or suffers from diminishing returns. So if I come down here and I build Wingblade 5 times, 3 times, whatever, you will notice that the movement speed number is of course going up because I am faster, but it is also going up by a smaller increment each time. And that is because eventually it is more and more affected by diminishing returns. I really wanted to calculate that so that it accurately reflected the stats that you will have in game. And if you go over here, you will notice that this number, if I were to unhide it, quote unquote, is a higher number than here because it is not affected by diminishing returns. But that is something that I wanted to make sure was functional on this sheet. So again, that is the thing I'd be most worried about messing up. If you're not going to build movement speed items or you just don't care, go ahead, do your thing. It'll be your copy to mess with. But I just figured I would make that obvious and apparent. And here we have a matchup page. Pretty self-explanatory. In this page, I have a little key down here of how I valued the matchups or how I tried to do it. I tried to keep it as broad as I could, but you'll notice there's a disclaimer here, which is just saying like, hey, I have my personal biases. I don't like Sobek as a character, so maybe you like some of these matchups on Sobek that I don't really like, or there will be, you know, keep in mind this is only for support, so I'm only looking at support for support matchups, but that's not always what matters, right? Ares is really good because he's really good against a lot of carry picks, not necessarily frontline support picks. So just because we're going over support matchups doesn't mean that you can't play into a bad matchup if you have good matchups everywhere else on their team. That sort of thing. It's just kind of like a nice little helpful guide for your ranked games, for your matchups to maybe better understand the role or better understand the strength of a character. For example, you will notice that there is a color key. Green equals good, red equals bad. The way you are reading this is your god is on this side of the page. So your god is on the left, their god is on the top or the vertical or the diagonal or whatever you want to call this. Let's say I want to play Ganesha. Here are matchups that are good for Ganesha. I'm looking for big green cells, and then I have one on Ardeo. Like, oh, okay, Ganesha's pretty good against Ardeo. Ganesha can be pretty good against Bacchus. Ganesha can be pretty good against, you know, Horus or Guan. Doesn't really matter. Again, it's all just an approximation. I tried to give a little, you know, note of how I was valuing it. Feel free to change this for however you'd like. So for example, let's say that healers are really, really broken. Then you're going to value healers and characters with anti-heal a lot higher than you will value a character like, say, Ares, who isn't historically very good versus healers. In any case, you'll notice that I limited this to just like 30 or so support picks. It was mainly just an example. I threw in some characters that I like to have fun with, like Afro and stuff like that. If you have other characters in here that you like to play that I didn't include, you just go on down here, insert a row below, insert the god name, and then you fill in the matchups yourself. So I am playing this god versus Aphrodite. I think I own Afro. That's a 9. Hello, that's a 9. Boom. Enter that. It will automatically color code it for you all the way across the row, and it'll fill in for you. Whenever you add a character, you can see it's symmetrical, line down the middle for every single god, because mirror matches are just 50-50, like true 50-50. And I don't play mirror matches because I play ranked, so screw mirror matches. Go ahead, add a character in the same spot up here. You just hit insert one column whichever way, insert one row whichever way, have it line up on this diagonal, and you are good to go. You can add in as many characters as you would like. For me, I just made it pretty simple, and it's just, you know, 30 or so. The table itself is not actually doing the calculations. There's a hidden sheet. Let's say that you want to add in a new character later this year that comes out. What you'll do is go to View, Hidden Sheets, and you'll go to gods_stats. In this table, you have every single character in the game. It's basically just, you know, a collection of all the data, all that type of stuff. In this sheet, you will notice that there is a _B and _S. This is just their level 1 base and their scaling. There's one column in particular here that is very important, which I will get to a little bit later, but it is this speed calc column right here. This column is the only thing in this sheet that actually pulls directly to this. This is just the cell gets copy pasted here. I'll explain the reason why later for those of you who are interested, but long story short, I'd highly recommend not messing with this calc right here. And if you were to enter in a new god into the game, all you would have to do is extend the range of these things. So like, for example, if this table reads up to row 130 and then you want to add a new god, you just have to make sure that these formulas all, you know, you can drag down, like, let's say new made up god, and I'll go in here and I'll do new made up god who has 1 HP. If you come over here and you take all of these and you drag this down, it should work. You'll see it just has 1 health. So you will have to manually enter in all that data. You will just do it on the hidden sheet. And then all you're doing here is make sure that you capitalize this name the same way. So if I write new made up god here in all lowercase, it needs to be all uppercase, because what it's looking for is the name, and then it'll take all their stats after that. If you somehow screw up the movement speed or you screw up the sheet and you don't want to go just download another copy or make another copy or whatever, this MS formula is a backup that I will keep here. This formula is to go into this cell in every single one of the build testers. I'll again go into more depth there later, but for the main portion of this, you can just hide this sheet. You shouldn't need it unless you're adding a new character into the game. Moving on from that, there are 2 more hidden sheets. The first one is items table. Most of this should be pretty accurate. I kind of tailored this to my own needs, so I deleted pretty much everything except for like starter items. I didn't even include tier 1 items, that type of thing. If you want to do that yourself, it's very easy to just, you insert a row below. So, you know, if you want it to be alphabetical or whatever, just find where it goes, insert it, you'll type in the name. So let's say it's, you know, Druid Stone or something, like a tier 1 item. Then you can go over here, you can type both. If you do capital B both, or capital P physical or capital M magical, it will auto fill in and sort it for you. And then the rest of this is just, you fill in the stats. Anything that doesn't have a stat, you just type 0 in its place. And then over here, you can type the passive. If it doesn't really have a passive, you do capital P, lowercase everything else, and then you can do NA or none, or you can do whatever. And if it has an actual passive, you can do all caps passive, and it'll detect it. And if it is an aura item, so let's say it's like a tier 2 support aura item or something, if they release something like that, if you just type in the word aura, it will auto detect it and sort it for you as green. You should be able to add in any other items that you want. I think most of these are accurate. There's a few things that are weird, like these breastplate glyph passives aren't in here, but we'll get to that later. I wouldn't worry about it. I think some of the Arthurian items, it didn't like automatically update their passives and all that sort of thing. The passive column to me wasn't that big of a deal. Again, if you're really nitpicky with that, it's super easy to edit that and put it in here. This range can go pretty much forever. So if I type in like G and then GG and then GGG, GGGGGG, you know, I just keep going. It'll extend the range of what it's reading here. I think right now it's reading up through 250. It has plenty of space. If you want to add in more items, it is already built into this. This is reading through 250. Yeah, it's reading through cell 250 right here is the range. So if you want to add more, go crazy, go for it. I just, to quote the EU boys on my team, I CBA with that. It was just a bit much. We also have a table that is just shards, relics, and glyphs. I did not alphabetically sort these by, you know, belt of insatiable hunger. I just put frenzy dash hunger, because when I'm looking through my builds, I'm just going to think, oh, do I want frenzy? Do I want bracer? That's how my brain works. Again, if you want to change that, go crazy. Changing the name is all you have to do. And then I try to condense these passives a little bit if you want to read through them, but I don't really currently have them show up anywhere in here, but you can build that in if you'd like. I actually forgot to build in the cost into the god template, so I will do that. By the time you get the sheet and it is released, I'll go ahead and build that in. I'll just put it, you know, under here. That's that page. Shards, relics, glyphs are all separate here. And again, I just hid that sheet just to make it a little bit more clear. And then lastly, for those of you who may be playing a different role, I want to show you how to get any stat that you want. We will do that by using these other sheets, the god stat table, all that sort of thing. If you were to go to view and go to hidden sheets and go to item table, this is where it is pulling all the stats for your items. Surprise, surprise. The way it is pulling the stats is just from the formula that is in here. And you can copy paste this exact formula for any stat that you want. And you're only going to change one thing about the formula, which is this number right here, right before false and after the range. This is the range of the item table sheet. Like I said, it will read up to 250 rows. This 5 is the 5th column over. So A, B, C, D, E is 5. It is the 5th column over. It is reading that column to pull this data for physical prot. So if you come over to the item table, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. E is 5. Phys prot. That's where we're pulling it from. So if you want a hunter's attack speed, you can come over here. It'll be 6, 7, 8, 9 is attack speed. And then you can get any stat that you want. Whatever number corresponds to this sheet is the number that you have to type right here. And then you will just copy paste that formula all the way down, which if you don't know how that works, let's say that I'll just build an attack speed item. For example, let's build Berserker Shield and let's change this to, whoops, this one. Dude, what did I say it was? 9, guys. Of course it is 9. And then boom, 25. And if you come over here, you will notice that Berserker Shield, of course, has 25% attack speed right there. So it will work. You can do that for whatever. Let's say that you want to build a second Berserker Shield and you want to make sure this is working. All you have to do is come down here. This is 60 physical prot. But if I drag this formula down like this, it will change it to attack speed. So if you want attack speed to work in this whole column, you just drag it down and then boom, there you go. So maybe you play a solo laner like, I don't know, say Osiris, who can build attack speed items and power items, all that good stuff. If you want Osiris to have a ability build, you can you can change one of these columns to have just power, all that type of stuff. And if you want him to have an attack speed build, you can change one of the columns, and then you can have different stats that you're comparing. Just know that if you do that, these headers at the top of the page for cost, health, HP 5, they won't be accurate. So you might have to put a note like, oh, this column is actually attack speed, that sort of thing. But you can customize it as much as you want. All you have to do is come over here, change the silly number, drag the formula down. Only drag it down within the item pages. Don't go over the totals or anything like that. You just do that within every single sheet. You come down here, boom, change that to an 8, change this to an 8, just change everything to an 8. Did I change this to 6? Why is it 6 now? I'm gonna go undo all of whatever I just did. It'll be a fresh slate. Nothing will be messed up, I promise. Boom, there you go. It's to 250, like I said. Nothing's gonna be messed up. Anyways, guys, that is about it for this and kind of walking through everything. Hopefully everything makes sense. I tried to explain it because up until a week or so ago, I was as illiterate with Google Sheets as you could possibly get. Those of you who have watched me mess around on stream with like tier lists and that type of stuff, you definitely know what I mean. So I spent a little bit of time into this. Shout out again to Emilzy for making the base and for everyone else that kind of helped me or inspired or whatever. Hopefully it's a nice resourceful tool. It's nothing too crazy. It's just a little base thing that looks pretty that helps you keep your thoughts in one place, which you will need if you're like me and have organizational issues. So I might add to this. I might add in, you know, a tier list page. I might add in some new things across my streams, across the season, all that type of stuff. But this is the base version. By the time you're watching this video, there will be a link to this sheet in my Discord. I will also put a link to the sheet in the description, I think, of this video. If you don't see it there, you can join my Discord. There will be a link to that in the description. There will be a link to that on my Twitch page. You can just go !Twitch on my !Discord on my Twitch. It'll pull up the Discord. There will be a channel in the Discord that says Google Sheet. You just open it up. You make a copy for yourself. You just go File and make a copy, boom, and then it's your own. You own it, and nobody else can mess with your sheet. Everybody who gets to see the sheet, you will just be able to view it, so you're gonna have to make your own copy to make any changes to it. And that is it. Let me know if you guys have other things that you'd like me to add to this. Let me know what you plan on using it for. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video.
One if I'm trolling from Professor BM. You can